Well, Incontrol does have the next map pick, so we're going to go ahead and hop on over to Cloud Kingdom for game number 2 between Evil Genius's Raid Call. It's going to take a while for me to say Evil Genius's Raid Call, but EG Raid Call Incontrol against Todd.
And as you said, at Cloud Kingdom, bottom left-hand position, we have Incontrol as the red Protoss yet again. Top right, we have the blue Protoss, Todd. And Cloud Kingdom, what's so powerful on this map is Blink Stalkers.
Oh yeah,
Blink if you've ever played a PvP on this map, and you've very silly gone like Immortal Sentry expecting to hold your ramp, you're gonna be so sad to do that because Blink Stalkers, all they have to do is come in, poke over here, attack your mineral line, jump back out again. They can take their expansion, and no matter what, they don't even have to kill you. It's the fact that you can't really place your army to defend your expansion and your main faster than the Blink Stalkers are. Yeah, and with that knowledge though, you see some kind of mind games. If you remember like Newerth versus Genius, even back in GSL, both players use that knowledge of Blink Stalkers to try to see if they can cut corners and, for example, go for that super quick Immortal and cut a couple of units to get out extra defense against the Blink Stalkers. And then from there, you kind of have this weird stalemate where both players are kind of afraid to expand because it is a little bit hard to defend that expansion area, especially with Blink Stalkers and that huge main opportunity. You can just have that observer blink in and do a lot of damage and escape. But you can see that both players, again, just delaying scouting significantly, very trademark. And, Incontrol is going to double cast very quickly. But, he did something similar last game where he went for a few probes in each. And this sets up even more mind games if they scout early. Yeah, that's the big part of it. I mean, it really gives you the ability to say, you will have no way of knowing what I'm doing. I can go Stargate play, I can go Robo play, I can just go regular gateway play. It's really efficient, and at the cost of 75 minerals, I would do this every single game if I'm playing PvP. Now, what's something that's really cool also is that Incontrol streams a lot, and when he plays in this PvP, he actually has a surprising amount of builds available to him. I've seen Incontrol do all kinds of crazy stuff, so you can't necessarily even predict him. And Incontrol is one of those Protoss players, if you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. If you allow him to place that proxy pylon in your base, he will. So Todd has to be very careful. The one thing that he's been doing a good job though is scouting. You can see that he's checking his natural, and whenever he was moving on the map, he was moving his stalker all the time to really keep tabs on his opponent. And against someone like Incontrol, you really want to do, because you remember his games back in MLG, Incontrol would every game try to sneak something. Oh, TLO lost to proxy pylons in base like, multiple times. TLO jokes about having nightmares with the proxy pylons. That was probably the saddest moment, I think, for TLO, just witnessing that you lost to the same thing over and over again. And it's really just like a silly build that shouldn't work, but Incontrol was bold enough to exercise it. That's what's, as you said, so cool about it. Again, going for the 2-gate, probably into Robo probably into Twilight Council from here. Yeah, and the 2-gate has also become this point of flexibility where you can pretty much even expand off this if you feel like what your opponent is doing, you can get away with it. And it really depends, again, on how you scout your opponent. Now, both players are still waiting for their Stalkers to come out to be a little bit more aggressive because, again, the 1 versus 2 versus 3 Stalker dynamic, if you get caught up position, it means a lot. You can tell how much map control Incontrol lost last game when he lost that first Stalker. That's very true. Something important to note, Twilight Council is going to go down, but Todd is actually going to the version that goes a little bit more defensive. He's going for a Sentry. Unfortunately, for Incontrol, he's going to Stargate. Now, I don't like this Stargate play as much on this map. Maybe a map like Entomb Valley, I think this is great. Entomb Valley, it's actually hard to blink up into the main, so people are less inclined to go something like that. But when you go this Stargate on a map where Blink Stalkers are so prevalent, I mean, you're really asking for trouble. Ooh, and trouble is what Todd's 2 Stalkers are in. Oh, they see one that gets picked off, and immediately the other one trying to run away. He does spot a proxy pylon, though, so that has a nice little silver lining on the cloud. But you can see that at this point, the Twilight Council has finished, but Todd has no time to really harvest of it. He does have 2 sentries, though, and that force field will buy him a lot of time, especially he can have additional warp in. So at this point, Incontrol has to be very cautious. If he gets pinned against it, there's pretty much nothing he can do. Well, be very careful. Another force field goes down. It's actually missed, unfortunately for him. Are there any more force fields here? No, there aren't. So Todd might be a little bit scared in this position. Oh my god, the probe is going to go all the way through.
Ooh,
wow, that was really,
dangerous
really
moment.
dangerous.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And I like this. He sells that it's going to be some sort of really, really big pressure with that pylon, then cancels it at the end. He's just going to go back. Oh my god, Todd was able to get into Incontrol's base and see the Phoenixes.
Oh, that's huge.
Oh my goodness.
And that's going to be very, very helpful, especially since he's going blink as well. He'll have a huge mass of stalkers. Now, of course, the way Incontrol sold this, just like you said, was an aggressive 3-gate with stalker pressure. The way he tried to force Todd into, you know, making more sentries than he wants to. Even though Todd does have 3 sentries, I mean, the fact is these Phoenixes will be a lot less effective because he'll be able to defend them very nicely.
You know, I don't think there's a lot of people would say, okay, go for the expansion in this position if you're in control. I don't think he can do that because at this moment, Todd will have just a quality amount of units. You know, those Blink Stalkers are able to keep up with the Phoenixes very easily. You can easily pick them off. They can't really do a lot of harassment. On top of that, regular gateway units just will not suffice against Blink Stalkers. So the decision to go into Robotech is correct. He actually has to 1-base all in from here. I don't see him actually going to a 2-base just because Todd is the one that has the better army.
Better economy as well. He has a very significant economic advantage, in fact. 6 probes is a huge amount of his about 150, 200 per minute. But you can see that one Phoenix is getting a shot at. Just get enough scouting information, sees the blink. He sees no robo attempt as well, so he knows that at least he won't have blink obs. But look at this from Todd, getting a Dark Shrine and a Forge immediately. So Todd will have a lot of options. He can transition directly into Archons as well to make sure his Phoenixes, or the Phoenixes of Incontrol can't do anything, but also even potentially sneak in and do some damage depending on how Incontrol goes from here. Yeah,
and that's so important. Archons are so good in this position because normally you go a lot of Immortals to counter all of those Blink Stalkers.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, if your opponent has gone for the expansion, I can punish you with Dark Templars. If you don't, then it can obviously go something like Archons and just punish your army composition again. So I really like where Todd is going with this. I think he's super far ahead, even though no real engagements have happened in this.
Todd setting up as if he's going to expand Incontrol, adding on more gates and pumping out Immortals, so looks like he's going for a huge push in just a couple of minutes. But Todd, at the same time, he's doing a pretty good job. He just doesn't want to leave his base too much. A lot of people normally say, like, well, you know, Todd has to make sure to defend his expansion, but he's really afraid of those Phoenixes. Doesn't want to lose that probe advantage whatsoever.
Yeah. I actually love what Incontrol is doing. He's being so active on the map. He's making sure no proxy pylons actually show up. I do want to mention really quick, look at how many observers are out in the field. There are 0.
Oh, none. You're right. 0. He's spending everything on his Immortals, and looks like after he gets his Immortals, he's going to get Colossus out as well.
Colossus. Very interesting choice. I do like it. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people are like, oh, in Control, you're staying on 1-base for so long. No, it's really pretty forced, actually. Because it's hard to actually go into a macro game from here because you gave up, I think, map control. Like a ton of map control, but that's that. Phoenix is still patrolling around the map all over the place, and the first Dark Templar is going to get in here, and oh my gosh, there are no, excuse me, there are no observers.
Yeah, there are no observers. Now, Todd, he can do this very diplomatically. He's going to reveal the fact that he has Dark Templars on this pylon. And I guess he's taking the very safe route because he wasn't sure what Incontrol has. But, you know, he saw only 4 Phoenixes as well. So Todd knows that Incontrol's been spending his gas elsewhere. So it'd be very wise to try to, or unwise to send Dark Templars blindly. And Todd's just going to take whatever win he can. And taking out that pylon in itself is also forcing more robo time off of something that's not Colossus.
Now, you will be getting Colossus directly after this, but now Todd knows exactly what his opponent's capable of. It's 1 base. He has 3 gateways, and of course, you saw that he's getting Colossus. The robotics bay is very, very clear. So what do you actually do? Well, I think a ton of Blink Stalkers is fine. Get your Archons, though, and get some Zealots. If you can get Charge, that's a really, really great big luxury that you can have, but it's hard to get that. So just focus on getting a ton of stuff, and a good mixture of everything, because you really want to stop your opponent from being able to, you know, get that nice Colossus army. And obviously, nice shots, I'm sorry.
Well, no, you're right. Just Incontrol decided to place a Nexus that is natural instead. And these Phoenixes honestly haven't been that effective. They don't really kill any probes until just now. Now finally starting to be able to harass a little bit, but Todd's been very comfortably ahead in the probe count. Well, 34 to 26, and he has his Nexus done. And every minute that Incontrol kind of has to sit back and wait is another opportunity for Todd to really prepare for this army, especially with that great Dark Templar scout.
I think the decision to actually take the expansion is correct. The main reason why I say that is because normally when you have that Colossus out, the power is, as we were talking about last game, having the sentries and being able to force those whereas your opponent cannot. Having the Archon out in the map actually does that for him, so he's in a really good position, I think, to actually stop any of Incontrol's pushes. So to just go and expand is, I think, a perfectly solid idea, and he's just going to try to salvage his, I guess, his losses by having good engagements a little bit later.
That's a really good point. I never really thought about it that way, and I think as a result, yeah, Incontrol, as long as he can really keep his opponent in this base, you know, the idea that if you leave for too long, I'll just kill your probes and I can defend with good Colossus positioning, and you won't really be able to attack up the ramp, especially since Cloud Kingdom does have several chokes laid around the expansion area for both players. You can see Incontrol also getting a second Robo. This is pretty standard. As soon as you get all 4 gases available, you go for double Colossus production. And at one point, even if they do have charge lots and Archons, as long as you play very, very safe with your positioning, you pretty much will never die against a huge army like that.
You know, and I think I like Incontrol's position better. Like, he's had the big advantage in the Colossus count. I think if he just protects his Colossus well enough, there's no way that Todd can actually do anything. And he's building on this army composition that really isn't too great at this period in time. Yes, it's good at the end game stages. It could be incorporated, but the fact that, you know, he has, or Incontrol has such a big boost in advantage of the Colossus really give him the power. And all he has to do is wait for additional Colossus supplemented with some gateway units to tank. And I think, you know, Incontrol is in a position where he's actually ahead composition-wise.
One thing really interesting is this Warp Prism, and Todd is able to really pick up his Immortals, save him from any kind of fire, even push him next to the Colossus and force them out of position or just directly attack them. And Todd can also use this really to just harass while pushing at different parts of the map, just like a classic Terran drop while pushing the main. You see Todd is dropping the Immortal and the Zealots immediately trying to work on the probe count, and a huge Warp Pit as well, so really committing to this. How is Todd going to follow with his army as well? He's going to move from the 3rd towards the natural. You can see Incontrol also not moving a second at his natural position. Doesn't want to give it up, and he knows that this is just bait.
Yes, but in the meantime, I mean, that is a lot of damage being done to the main over here. The Zealots are just going to town on everything. Incontrol does need to deal with this because he does not want to lose a Nexus. That would be the worst possible thing. Colossus are going to come here to the rescue. I love how he's picking up the one single Immortal. And from this, I would actually say Incontrol comes out ahead because of that attack. Yes, he lost a lot of mining time, but think of how much of an investment that was. That was a lot of Zealots, and that was a single Immortal plus the Warp Prism. Robo timing. Ooh,
a huge shot to a lot of Todd's army, and he loses a few Stalkers and has to blink away. Looks like Incontrol's going to force the issue by picking up a couple of Stalkers as well. Very, very nice moves from our player from Evil Geniuses. Todd, in the meantime, he does have a huge economic lead because he did kill 17 workers thus far, but still, the army supplies does favor Incontrol slightly, and you can see that the Phoenix is trying to stay ahead and pick off some of the Stalkers, but not really going to do much. Todd does have a couple Colossus out in position, as long as you know, he can really take a strong position up the ramp. I don't think Incontrol can actually break him, but Incontrol really result.
I don't know. I think Incontrol is actually ahead. Look, Thermal Lance isn't finished. I would agree with you if he might have had Thermal Lance, but I think Incontrol, if he pushes up here, he's way ahead, but he didn't. Unfortunate for him. He can keep kiting this, but he had no indicator to know his opponent doesn't have Thermal Lance yet. But he's coming in from, I think it's still a pretty favorable angle. The one Colossus is going to be picked off so fast. And there were so many Colossus fires that Incontrol was able to get. Just push the action on. But he's going to kite. I don't mind this at all. Remember, he has Thermal Lance, but now that Todd has it, he will take the massive advantage. That was Incontrol's timing. He didn't actually exercise it, and now he's going to fall behind in the matter of seconds, man. I mean, that's all it takes sometimes in PvP.
Yeah, and I like the position. As long as, you know, Todd took his his 10 and pitched it on top of his ramp. He should have been okay. Even if he did, he would have been able to use a Colossus on this high ground to really pick at the army. And the big thing is that Incontrol doesn't have any support units. He's got like Colossus, he's got Immortals, but he's got just a handful of Stalkers and Zealots. Nothing really to buffer between those units. You can't just make straight up Colossus all the time. And of course, Incontrol knows this. He's going to try to expand at the same time as Todd, but for now, all the initiative does belong to Todd. His army is 97 supply compared to 66 of Incontrol.
Yeah, and another big problem, I mean, Incontrol really needed to get some sort of blink tech up ASAP, but he hasn't, and that's really staggered the mobility of his army, obviously. I mean, he wanted to be keeping up with these blink stalkers, but as you were saying, Todd has the ability to do that pressure and just run away, and he basically gets free money every single time, killing this Nexus, killing the 2 pylons over there. That's a lot of opportunity cost that you're losing right there.
+2 is already almost done for Incontrol. He was behind him on upgrades, but you can see him really spending his Chrono Boost on that. Incontrol's been doing a pretty good job, though, at least keeping his Colossus safe. He's not losing control of him. Very easy for him to get picked off. If you play Blink a lot, you really try to be active and see whatever you can pick off. And, I mean, Todd's been able to snipe the expansion, but no real unit snipe as a result of Incontrol's due diligence. Now, he does have a few Dark Templar trying to take over Watchtowers, and he's the one who also trying to morph in some Archons eventually, but I feel like Incontrol, if he's going to try to do this dance in the corner, has to be very cautious because he doesn't have that great vision on Todd's army, which is very massive at this point. If he gets caught in position, Colossus can't run away from Blink Stalkers. Yeah,
and the Colossus count, it's important to note, is even. So both these players, well, pretty soon not, I'm sorry. Incontrol is going to get 2 more Colossus, but also Todd has the defensive advantage, so obviously every single reinforcement wave of Colossus are going to come in a lot faster than Incontrol's. That gives Todd obviously the advantage when defending. So Incontrol will again just you know, stop. He won't continue attacking, and that is the correct decision. I like, actually, Incontrol's playing this right. Throughout, a lot of these actions are actually pretty forced.
Yeah, I agree. Just like you said, the only thing I would like more is just the Blink upgrade, just like you said. You really want to at least have the option of that mobility in case you need to do some kind of emergency blink to cut off units or to just save your Colossus in terms of positioning. Now it comes to the point where both players are just so strong in their army, though, that's really hard to attack. And I mean, both players will inevitably clash with lots of Colossus, but I mean, it gets to the point where if you attack up a ramp, especially with the AI of the Colossus, they kind of just naturally clump together, and you need them as spread out as possible. So it's going to be really tough for either player to really make a move, and you can see that Incontrol already starting the initiative for the second phase of the PvP late game, which is the Mothership.
Yeah, and really, in Incontrol's position, he can't be too aggressive. I mean, he knows his opponent has had such an economic advantage. You should be pulled back completely. Unfortunately, this one Colossus, I have no clue what it's doing. There you go. He was stuck on the ramp. But, oh, never mind. I'm going out of my mind. I thought those was high Templars. I was like, oh, he switched it up. Additional Archons are going to be added in. I mean, Todd is just getting everything right, but the big trump card is going to be that Mothership. If he gets out the Mothership, obviously he will be nicely ahead because he has the Vortex capabilities.
He does, and one thing that I really like about Incontrol's play right now is that he has a lot of observers on the map, and that'll come handy, especially when it comes Mothership v Mothership. And Todd does spot one observer, but the big thing is Incontrol sees that Todd's moving out. He needs to set up. Incontrol has an incredible amount of Colossus. He's got 10, and +3 isn't done, though. So he doesn't necessarily have a huge upgrade advantage in any slightest, despite the fact that he had the upgrade started earlier. The Mothership is on the way, but it's making in the main as well. So Incontrol has to really buy some precious time at this point. Will Todd push in at this moment? And if he does, he has to be very cautious because he might be, you know, sending his own death order because of the way the Colossus are clumped.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Incontrol has the much better army positioning. And if Todd went up that ramp, he would have been dead. But nicely done for Todd. He's going to come into this smaller little choke, and now Incontrol will have to reposition everything. Mothership is inbound right now, 70 seconds. +3 is just about to finish, and oh my god, oh gosh, I thought Yes, Todd, stop playing with my heart.
Todd's also trying to force a reaction. Incontrol does manage to pick off a couple of the units, and Incontrol is going to set back and also let loose of cannons. You can see that Todd at this point is still jumping up his Colossus, now trying to engage, but you can see that Incontrol doesn't have that many support units, pretty much only Colossus left, and now the Immortals can absorb a lot of the damage, and Immortals do 65 damage per shot with that +3 upgrade. The Blink for it as well, sniping a lot of the Colossus. GG, and in the blink of an eye, Todd takes the series 2-0 after a very, very dangerous dance back and forth outside of Incontrol's third.
Yeah, as you said, not enough support units, not enough tanking units, and you know,
yeah, 12 Colossus at that battle. I mean, it was it was an absurd amount, but just the fact that you have those Archons and those Immortals really able to take the damage, and even the simple things as the Blink Stalkers, they can get in position and really weaken the Colossus resolve. It's just all these things really add over time, and despite the fact that Colossus is great AoE, I mean, come on, that was great play from Todd.
Exactly. I mean, he built on his Archon count the whole time. He built on his Immortal count the whole time, and he was able to just punish his opponent, where the Mothership, 400 gas, would have nicely gone to almost 2 Archons if you went Dark Templars. But that being said, well played from Todd, and he's going to move on into the NASL Open.
All right, so he moves on to the round of 128, which of course is still going on, guys. These games are pretty fresh if you're just tuning in. The way the format works is it's single elimination all the way through, but we're only playing 2 rounds today. So we'll have lots of more action. There's lots of people signed up here for the Season 4 qualifier. We'll find out what's our next series after we take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. More action from the NASL Season 4 qualifiers coming up next.